Well, in less than 48 hours, the U.S. is scheduled to completely withdraw all remaining U.S. troops from Afghanistan, ending America's longest war. The U.S. military shot down rockets aimed at the airport in Kabul today, following a U.S. drone strike yesterday. At least, the threat of violence continues, though. The White House reports about 120,000 people have been evacuated since the end of July. Yesterday, the remains of 13 troops were returned to the U.S. after they were killed in an attack at the airport last week. Bradley Blackburn has more.
Smoke loomed over a Kabul neighborhood after U.S. anti-missile defenses intercepted as many as 5 rockets aimed at Kabul's airport, a U.S. official told Reuters. Sunday, the Taliban tightened security around the airport perimeter, manning checkpoints, and a U.S. drone strike took out this vehicle. There were reports of an initial explosion, then a larger secondary explosion, possibly indicating it was a fully loaded car bomb. Officials are still trying to determine who in the car may have been killed. They're also looking into reports of civilian casualties. But evacuation flights continue as the deadline for U.S. withdrawal nears. Officials say Americans who are left will be able to get out.
We have the capacity to have 300 Americans, which is roughly the number we think are remaining, come to the airport and get on planes in the time that is remaining.
The president's handling of the withdrawal was sharply criticized by Republicans on Sunday news programs.
He wanted to end the war in Afghanistan and make sure we didn't have to deal with it in the future. He's done the exact opposite.
With the time left, the focus now turns to getting American troops out safely as the threats in Afghanistan only grow. In Dover, Delaware, the president and first lady attended the solemn arrival of the remains of 13 troops killed in last week's airport attack. The president met privately with military families and stood with them for the dignified transfer of remains. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
So joining me now is Max Abrahms. He is a political science professor at Northeastern University and a senior fellow at the Institute for Peace and Diplomacy. So we have seen over the past few days what looks like thwarted attacks, attempted attacks with the U.S. military response. What is the likelihood that any of this is going to have an impact on the withdrawal process out of Kabul airport? Could it slow things down?
Well, I think that in a way it's actually sped things up because the United States was, really a sitting duck at this airport. What happened was that the Biden administration didn't anticipate that the Taliban was going to take over the country so quickly. It really just took about a week between August 9th and August 16th or so. And the Taliban even took over Kabul, which was a real surprise to the administration. They thought that the Afghan government and military was going to hold off, which would have enabled the United States plenty of time to evacuate any remaining citizens. But then the Taliban took over, and not only that, but then there was a lethal terrorist attack against American, the American military presence there and the evacuees. And so at that point, the Biden administration really said, we've got to get out of here ASAP. So I don't think that more attacks are slowing the U.S. down. I think, if anything, it reinforces the strategic logic for the United States to get out of this war-torn country.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that the U.S. is unlikely to keep diplomats in Kabul after the withdrawal. We know other countries, I'm thinking of China, have chosen something different. We saw images of, the Chinese foreign minister with the leader of the Taliban. What sort of impact might this have with the U.S. choosing not to have a diplomatic relationship?
Well, the United States has a special relationship with the Taliban that's really very different from other countries. I suspect that a number of countries will immediately, officially recognize the Taliban. For example, Russia, China, Turkey, Qatar. In the U.S. case, it's a little bit different, though, emotionally, because the Taliban, of course, has been our enemy for 20 years because it was harboring al-Qaeda. That's where bin Laden commanded the 9/11 attacks from. And so it's harder for the United States, I think, politically to recognize the Taliban. I'm not in any particular rush to recognize the Taliban. The Taliban is still a terrorist organization. It, uses violence against civilians for a political goal. It's very extreme tactically in terms of harming, in terms of all of its attacks, but it's also very extreme ideologically in terms of its interpretation of Sharia law and punishments like chopping off hands and even stonings. So I don't have this great urgency to recognize the Taliban. I don't think that we need to do that. I've been in favor of removing American troops from Afghanistan, but not necessarily negotiating with the Taliban.
So I think I can anticipate what your answer is going to be like for my next question. The Taliban leadership is sort of insisting that this is a new Taliban, not the one that we had been familiar with when they were in charge of the country before, that this is a more evolved Taliban. What will you be watching out for once U.S. troops leave to determine whether or not this is a new and improved, evolved Taliban?
Yeah, I mean, the Taliban has been really very extreme. Again, both in terms of its tactics, but also in terms of its ideology. And this was true when the Taliban was in power. The Taliban used to be the government of Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001. And then after 9/11, the U.S. went in there and toppled the regime. But that didn't end the Taliban. The Taliban remained the main resistance force against the U.S. and the new Afghan installed government. And throughout that time period, the Taliban was ruthless in its use of terrorism, killing large numbers of civilians. So the Taliban wants to present itself as a different Taliban, Taliban 2.0, if you will. And so it's presenting this more moderate image. And we'll have to see whether or not it does, in fact, moderate itself, both in terms of its tactics and in terms of its ideology. I do have to say that over the past 3 weeks, the Taliban has tried exceedingly hard to present this moderate image. We haven't seen, large amounts of terrorist attacks. The one attack that we saw seems to have been in defiance of the Taliban leadership, not in cahoots with the leadership. The Taliban has tried to work with the United States to help the U.S. get its evacuees out of that country. And so far, so good, I have to say. But of course, given the Taliban's history, I'll remain skeptical until we see really sustained efforts to change its behavior.
Yeah, we'll see how the Taliban treats women after the U.S. withdrawal, how they treat ethnic or other religious minorities after the full withdrawal. We'll all be watching. Max Abrahms, thank you so much.
My pleasure.